Every true crime fan knows the name Jack the Ripper. But what most don't realize is the sheer audacity of this serial killer who completely vanished into thin air. Despite countless theories, evidence, and decades of relentless investigation, the identity of one of history's most notorious murderers remains completely hidden. Prepare to be fascinated by the enduring enigma of Jack the Ripper. Welcome, seekers of the unknown, to Mystery in the Dark, your destination for unraveling the world's most baffling enigmas. Tonight, we plunge into the heart of a mystery that has haunted generations, a chilling tale of terror that still sends shivers down the spine. We're going back to 1888, to the gaslit streets of London, where a shadow known only as Jack the Ripper carved his name into history, leaving behind a trail of blood, fear, and an identity that remains shrouded in the deepest darkness. The year is 1888. Queen Victoria sits on the throne, the British Empire spans the globe, and London is the bustling, beating heart of the world. But beneath the glittering facade of progress and prosperity, a darker reality festered. The East End, particularly the district of Whitechapel, was a labyrinth of poverty, destitution, and desperation. Overcrowded slums, disease, and a brutal struggle for survival were the daily norm. For many women with few options, prostitution was a grim necessity. It was in this desperate landscape, amidst the grinding gears of Victorian society, that an unspeakable terror began to unfold. Our story, or rather, our nightmare, truly begins in the late summer of 1888, though some historians point to earlier, possibly related murders. The official Canonical Five victims, Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and Mary Jane Kelly, represent the core of the Ripper's reign of terror, a concentrated burst of horrific violence that gripped London in fear for just over 10 weeks. Imagine, if you can, the sheer atmosphere of Whitechapel at night. Fog, thick and yellow, rolling in from the Thames, clinging to the grimy brickwork of the tenements. The gas lamps casting long, dancing shadows, barely piercing the gloom. The air thick with the smell of coal smoke, sewage, and cheap gin. This was the hunting ground of Jack the Ripper. The first of the canonical victims was Mary Ann Nichols, a 43-year-old woman known as Polly. She was found on Friday, August the 31st, 1888, shortly before 4 a.m., in Bucks Row, Whitechapel. Her throat was savagely cut, and she had suffered horrific abdominal mutilations. The brutality of the attack was immediately clear, but what truly shocked investigators was the precision. The cuts were described as skilled, suggesting an anatomical knowledge that was deeply disturbing. This wasn't a random act of violence. It was something far more calculated and sinister. The discovery sent a ripple of unease through the community, but the true panic had yet to ignite. That came just 8 days later. On Saturday, September 8th, Annie Chapman, a 47-year-old woman, was found brutally murdered in the backyard of 29 Hanbury Street, Spitalfields. Like Polly Nichols, her throat was cut from ear to ear, and her body subjected to even more extensive and grotesque mutilations. Her intestines were found laid over her shoulder, and some internal organs, including parts of her uterus, were missing. This detail was particularly chilling. It suggested not just a killer, but someone with a deep-seated perverse fascination with anatomy, or perhaps even a ritualistic intent. The sheer audacity of the killer was staggering. Hanbury Street was not an isolated alley. It was a relatively busy street, even in the early hours of the morning. The killer had operated with incredible speed and daring, under the very noses of the slumbering city. The newspapers, ravenous for sensational headlines, exploded. The Whitechapel murders became the talk of London. Fear began to grip the East End. Women were terrified to walk the streets alone, and even men felt a growing sense of dread. The police, led by Chief Inspector Frederick Aberline, were under immense pressure, but they faced an unprecedented challenge. This killer left little to no forensic evidence as we know it today. Fingerprinting was in its infancy and not yet widely used. DNA analysis was centuries away, and the concept of crime scene preservation was rudimentary at best. The primary tools were witness accounts, often unreliable, and instinct. What was clear was that the killer displayed a chilling consistency in his methods. The victims were all women involved in prostitution, their throats cut with swift professional precision, followed by horrific abdominal mutilations. The locations were always dark, secluded spots within walking distance of each other. And the timing? Always in the early hours of the morning, usually on a weekend. These patterns began to paint a terrifying picture of a highly organized, meticulous predator. The police response was massive for its time. Thousands of flyers were distributed, house-to-house searches were conducted, and every known undesirable in Whitechapel was questioned. The sheer volume of rumors, false leads, and amateur detectives flooding the streets only complicated matters. And then, the letters began to arrive. It was during this escalating panic that the name Jack the Ripper first appeared. On September 27, 1888, a letter arrived at the Central News Agency, signed Jack the Ripper. The letter, written in red ink, was taunting and defiant. It boasted about the murders and promised more. "I am down on whores," it declared, "and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled." The press, eager for a catchy moniker, seized upon it, and a legend was born. It's a truly shocking fact that this name, which has become synonymous with terror, originated from a possibly hoax letter. But whether genuine or a journalistic fabrication, it cemented the killer's terrifying identity in the public consciousness. The police initially suspected the letter was a hoax, but then another horror struck. And this time, the Ripper's boldness reached a terrifying peak. The night of Sunday, September 30th, 1888, would forever be etched in the annals of criminal history as the double event. On this terrifying night, Jack the Ripper struck not once, but twice within an hour of each other, demonstrating an audacious confidence that plunged Whitechapel into utter panic. The first victim of the night was Elizabeth Stride, a 45-year-old Swedish immigrant known as Long Liz. Her body was discovered shortly before 1 a.m. in Dutfield's yard, off Burner Street. Her throat was deeply cut, but unlike the previous victims, there were no further mutilations. This abrupt stop led to a shocking conclusion. The killer had been interrupted. A witness, Louis Diemschutz, had driven his pony and cart into the yard, perhaps arriving just as the murder was completed, or even mid-mutilation. The Ripper, disturbed, had fled into the dense London fog, leaving Liz Stride's body relatively untouched apart from the fatal throat wound. This near miss, the thought of the killer lurking just moments away, intensified the horror. But the night was far from over. Just 45 minutes later, and less than a mile away, the Ripper struck again with unparalleled savagery. Catherine Eddowes, a 46-year-old woman known as Kate Conway, was found murdered in Mitre Square, a small, dark courtyard in the heart of the City of London, a more affluent and patrolled area than Whitechapel. Her discovery came at 1:45 a.m. This time, the mutilations were beyond horrifying. Her throat was severely cut, her face was disfigured, and her abdomen had been ripped open with her intestines again laid out. But the most shocking detail was the removal of her left kidney and a significant portion of her uterus. This confirmed the killer's chilling surgical skill and his grotesque obsession with internal organs. The fact that the Ripper had carried out two murders in such quick succession, one in Whitechapel and the other in the City of London, crossing police jurisdictions and escaping twice, sent shockwaves across the entire nation. The city police, distinct from the Metropolitan Police, now had their own Ripper victim, indicating the killer's terrifying ability to operate anywhere, seemingly at will. The discovery of Eddowes' body came with another crucial, albeit disturbing, piece of evidence. Near the scene of her murder, in Goulston Street, a blood-stained piece of her apron was found. Above it, scrawled on the wall in chalk, was a message: "The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing." This controversial graffiti, immediately recognized as potentially inciting anti-Semitic violence, was quickly washed away by the police commissioner. Was it left by the Ripper, a deliberate red herring, or simply unrelated street graffiti? The debate continues to this day, but its presence added another layer of sinister intrigue to an already perplexing case. it also offered a terrifying glimpse into the social prejudices of the time. The autumn of 1888 was now an autumn of sheer terror. The public outcry was immense. Questions were hurled at Scotland Yard from every corner. Who was this monster? Why couldn't he be caught? The papers ran lurid accounts, often exaggerating details, fueling the hysteria. Vigilance committees were formed, ordinary citizens patrolling the streets, armed with makeshift weapons, desperately trying to protect their communities. Yet the Ripper remained a ghost, always one step ahead, always vanishing into the impenetrable London night. The murders had profound social and political ramifications. They exposed the brutal realities of poverty in the East End, forcing a reluctant Victorian society to confront the squalor and desperation that lay beneath its veneer of respectability. The inadequacy of policing methods in a rapidly growing metropolis was also laid bare, leading to significant reforms in police procedure in the years to come. Amidst the chaos, the police followed every conceivable lead. They questioned doctors, butchers, due to the surgical precision of the cuts, slaughtermen, anyone with anatomical knowledge. They even considered the possibility of a woman killer. Thousands of men were interviewed, their movements scrutinized, but the Ripper seemed to possess an uncanny ability to blend in, to disappear without a trace. Then, just when the city thought it had endured the worst, the most shocking and gruesome murder of all occurred. This final act of brutality would be the ultimate testament to the Ripper's depravity and his baffling disappearance. The date was Friday, November 9th, 1888. The terror that had gripped Whitechapel for months reached its horrifying crescendo with the murder of Mary Jane Kelly. This victim, unlike the others, was murdered not in a dark alley, but inside her own room at 13 Miller's Court, a small, squalid lodging. This act represented an unprecedented level of audacity and depravity, marking the Ripper's most brutal and final canonical act. Mary Jane Kelly was estimated to be around 25 years old, making her significantly younger than the previous victims. She was also reportedly more attractive and had a more settled life, even if still within the confines of poverty. Her murder, however, surpassed all previous horrors. When her landlord's assistant, who had come to collect rent, peered through a broken window pane, he discovered a scene of unimaginable butchery. The police were called, and what they found inside Mary Kelly's room shocked even the most hardened officers. Her body was almost beyond recognition. She had been horrendously mutilated, far more extensively than any of the previous victims. Her throat was cut, her face was completely disfigured, her breasts had been cut off, and her abdominal cavity had been emptied. Her heart was missing, and various other organs were strewn about the room. The sheer savagery suggested the killer had spent hours, undisturbed, carrying out his gruesome work. This wasn't a quick attack in a dark street. It was a sustained, deliberate act of mutilation carried out in the relative safety of a private room. This detail is absolutely shocking. It implies the killer felt completely secure, perhaps locking the door from the inside, giving him ample time to indulge his monstrous fantasies. The room was a bloodbath, a scene of such grotesque violence that it solidified the Ripper's reputation as a creature of pure evil. The murder of Mary Kelly intensified the public hysteria to a fever pitch. London was terrified. The newspapers, already sensationalist, now had an even more horrific tale to tell. The public demanded answers, and the pressure on the police was immense. Yet, despite the extreme nature of this crime and the prolonged time the killer must have spent at the scene, the Ripper once again vanished without a trace. No witnesses came forward who could definitively identify him entering or leaving the court. The fog, the darkness, and the anonymity of the East End continued to be his allies. With Mary Kelly's murder, the Canonical Five victims were complete. And then, the murders stopped. Just as suddenly and mysteriously as they began, they ceased. This abrupt end is one of the most perplexing aspects of the entire Ripper mystery. Did the killer die? Was he institutionalized? Did he leave London? Or did he simply choose to stop, his gruesome spree reaching its perverse culmination? The silence that followed Mary Kelly's murder was as deafening as the previous reign of terror. The investigation continued for years, but the trail went cold. Despite massive efforts, interviewing thousands, searching countless premises, and following every single lead, Jack the Ripper was never identified, never caught. The files remained open, but hope dwindled with each passing year. The killer had truly vanished into the historical mist. This abrupt cessation of the murders has spawned countless theories. Some suggest the Ripper was a foreign sailor who left London on a ship shortly after Mary Kelly's death. Others believe he was a local man who either died, was imprisoned for another crime, or simply moved away. The lack of further attacks, particularly with the escalating notoriety, is truly perplexing and adds to the enduring mystery. The legacy of Jack the Ripper is not just about the brutality of his crimes, but about the profound questions he left unanswered. He became a symbol of urban dread, a phantom that embodied the dark underbelly of a seemingly civilized society. His escape from justice fascinated and terrified in equal measure. He was the ultimate boogeyman, proof that pure evil could exist and walk among us, completely undetected. The police were criticized heavily for their failure, but in fairness, they were operating with rudimentary forensic techniques in an era before organized criminal profiling and advanced scientific analysis. They tried their best, but they were up against a killer who was either incredibly lucky, incredibly cunning, or perhaps both. With the official investigation yielding no concrete results, the void was quickly filled by speculation, urban legends, and an endless stream of theories. This is where the Ripper mystery truly takes hold in the public imagination, transforming from a horrific series of murders into an enduring, almost mythical puzzle. In the next part, we will dive into some of the most prominent suspects and compelling theories that have emerged over the decades, attempting to finally unmask the ghost of Whitechapel. The abrupt end to Jack the Ripper's reign of terror did not bring an end to the fascination, only intensified it. With no arrest, no confession, and no definitive answers, the world has been left to grapple with countless theories and a rogues gallery of suspects, each with their own intriguing, yet ultimately unproven case. Let's delve into some of the most prominent contenders for the title of history's most elusive killer. One of the most sensational and frequently discussed theories implicates a member of the royal family, Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale, often known as Eddie. This theory, gaining traction much later, posits that the prince, suffering from syphilis which drove him to madness, committed the murders. Some versions even suggest a conspiracy involving the royal family and the government to cover up his crimes, as the victims were supposedly privy to a secret marriage between Eddie and a Catholic commoner and were silenced to protect the monarchy. This theory is largely dismissed by serious historians due to a lack of concrete evidence and Eddie's known whereabouts at the time of some murders, but its dramatic appeal makes it a persistent one. It's a shocking thought that a royal could be the Ripper, which is why it captures so much attention. Another prominent suspect is Dr. Montague John Druitt, a barrister and schoolmaster with medical training. He drowned in the Thames shortly after the last canonical murder, on December 1st, 1888. The timing of his death, coinciding with the cessation of the murders, has long made him a strong candidate. He was known to have mental health issues, and his family had a history of mental illness. Some police officials at the time apparently considered him a strong possibility, though direct evidence linking him to the crimes is scarce. The fact that the murders stopped right after his death is a chilling coincidence that many find hard to ignore. Then there's Aaron Kosminski, a Polish Jewish hairdresser who lived in Whitechapel and was committed to an asylum in 1891. He was named as a prime suspect by Chief Inspector Swanson in his memoirs and was also mentioned by Commissioner Robert Anderson. Both men believed Kosminski was the Ripper, but they faced the challenge of unreliable witness identification at the time. More recently, in 2014, a controversial DNA analysis was performed on a shawl purportedly found at the Catherine Eddowes crime scene, claiming to link Kosminski to the murder. However, the methodology and conclusions of this DNA evidence have been heavily debated and largely discredited by the scientific community. Despite the controversy, Kosminski remains a compelling, if unproven, suspect. Other notable suspects include George Chapman, whose real name was Sioran Kłosowski, a Polish serial killer who poisoned 3 of his wives in the 1890s and had medical training. He worked as a barber in Whitechapel during the Ripper murders. His later crimes, though different in method, showed a disregard for human life. There's also James Maybrick, a Liverpool cotton merchant whose purported diary, confessing to the Ripper murders, was discovered in 1992. The diary's authenticity, however, is hotly contested and widely believed to be a hoax. Beyond individual suspects, various theories abound regarding the Ripper's motives and identity. Was he a surgeon, a butcher, or perhaps a frustrated medical student, given the anatomical precision of the mutilations? Was he driven by misogyny, a deep-seated hatred of women, particularly prostitutes? Or was he a religious fanatic, performing some twisted ritual? The very nature of the Ripper's anonymity and the lack of concrete forensic evidence have allowed the legend to grow, taking on a life of its own. It's a true crime mystery that continues to spawn books, documentaries, and debates, almost 136 years later. The enduring fascination lies in the human desire for closure, to bring a name and a face to the monster that terrorized London. But the shocking fact remains. Jack the Ripper's true identity has never been unequivocally established. He remains a ghost, a chilling reminder of a killer who outwitted the law, vanished into the fog of history, and left behind an unsolvable riddle. His legacy is one of both terror and a perpetual challenge to our understanding of true crime. The case is a stark reminder that sometimes the darkness truly wins, and the identity of evil remains hidden, forever shrouded in mystery. The story of Jack the Ripper is more than just a series of brutal murders. It's a testament to the enduring power of the unknown. It challenges us to look beyond the headlines and peer into the very heart of human darkness and the limitations of justice. If this journey into the depths of historical mystery has captivated you, then you're in the right place. Don't let the shadows hold all the secrets. For more deep dives into the world's most baffling enigmas, make sure to subscribe to Mystery in the Dark. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another chilling revelation. What are your thoughts on Jack the Ripper? Do you have a favorite theory? Or a suspect you believe is the true killer? Share your insights and comments below. We love to hear from our fellow mystery enthusiasts. And if you found this exploration fascinating, please share this video with anyone who loves a good puzzle. Join our community as we continue to shine a light into the darkest corners of history. Until next time, keep seeking the truth and stay curious.